Today would have been my brother's 41st birthday. Unfortunately, he left us 4 months ago. I miss him every day and I wish he were still here. 40 is too young and he left us too soon. My brother and I grew up in South Holland, Illinois. Some of the things I remember most as a kid are going to construction sites and riding our bikes, building forts in the woods. We played 1 year at t-ball, but for the most part we played sports with kids on our block, usually in the street or in the backyard or on someone's driveway. He was in the band at school. I remember going to some of his concerts. First instrument he played was the tuba, and eventually he played percussion. We moved to Dyer, Indiana in 1989. He was the first to go to middle school, and eventually I joined him at Kaler. I remember him walking down the hallways with his IOU t-shirts and going to his first football game, which they won, and then lost everyone after that. He played nose tackle and wore number 50 because that was Chris Zorge's number. Aside from that, we used to play every sport you could think of in the park or at someone's house. Sometimes you get like 20 kids to show up. Usually it was his friends, and usually he let me tag along. After Kaler, Matt went to the same high school that my dad went to and coached at, Mount Carmel. He played football and wrestled all 4 years. He didn't play too much his freshman year, but eventually he worked his way up and ended up starting on the varsity by the time he was a senior. However, it was wrestling where he really made a name for himself. He won the Badger State Tournament, represented Illinois in a match versus Indiana, and he also led his team downstate. That year was especially tough for him because his best friend, Kevin Dowling, died during football practice 2 weeks before the season started during the heat wave of 1995. The team dedicated the season to Kevin, but they fell a field goal short of winning a state championship. Matt took everything especially hard. He graduated, went to Indiana State. He played football for a couple of seasons. However, football is no longer his passion, and he eventually left the team. Eventually, things fell apart at Indiana State, and he came home to attend Purdue Cal. After college, I moved back home for a couple of months, but the both of us under the same roof didn't go over very well. One night, we got into a fist fight, and I moved out soon after. We didn't speak for 5 years. I don't know what was going on with him during that time, which is something that I regret to this day. I'm pretty sure he finished college and worked jobs here and there, but he wasn't very honest with anyone about what was going on in his life. He and I eventually reconciled, and during our 30s, we remained cordial, but we were never really close. He resented me for a number of reasons, and I was mad at the world and myself at that time. However, we always spent the holidays together, and we usually got together once a year for a sporting event or a concert. When my mom died, I know it hit him hard. He lived at home for a long time and they were very close. And even when he moved out, that didn't change. She passed away very suddenly, and it was something that hurt us both very deeply. My brother, my dad, and I still got together for the holidays, but it was never really the same. We never really talked about what was going on in his life or if there was anything that anyone could do for him. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have asked for help even if he needed it. I'm guessing he was dealing with a lot of pain and he turned to alcohol to cope with it. Now that he's gone, I have this empty feeling like I should have known more, done more, or at the very least tried harder. I know he felt abandoned as if he didn't have any friends, but I don't know why he felt that way because it just wasn't true. When he was in the hospital, a lot of people reached out to him. They wanted to let him know that he was loved, but during that time he really didn't say too much. And even when the doctors were telling him the bad news of his situation, he just took everything in stride and kept it all bottled up. He left this world peacefully, remaining the same person that I always thought of him as, the toughest person I've ever known. At his funeral, it was standing room only. Some of his friends even drove from more than a couple hours away to pay their respects. Over and over again, people kept repeating, he was a great guy, your brother was great. I got to meet his co-workers and his friends, people I didn't even know he had in his life. During his eulogy, I mentioned that he will always be remembered, which is a promise I made to him during the last week he was alive. I also asked that if you know anybody struggling with addiction, to reach out to help that person. They might not want it, but then again they might. And if you can help anybody, even if you're just there to listen, you will keep my brother's memory alive. I don't want people to think about how my brother died. I want them to remember how he lived. Before he got sick, he was turning his life around. He had a full-time job, and he talked about some of the other projects he was working on. We did talk occasionally, and it was usually about lifting weights and making different recipes, and Netflix. He loved Netflix. He loved movies and music. He was unusually good at trivia, which is something he took very serious. I also saw numerous posts on his Facebook account about people thanking him for cheering them up and just being there for him. He was funny. He could make anyone laugh. His humor was cutting, too. The last place you wanted to be was in his crosshairs because he could be brutal, all the while putting everyone else in stitches. I know he believed in God. That's why I don't believe he died. I believe he went to heaven, and his friend Kevin Dowling and my mom were up there waiting for him. I don't believe he got sick. I believe he was just tired of carrying around all that pain he locked away inside and he just needed rest. Friendship was the most important thing to my brother. The only real sad part is that he'll never know the amount of people or the extent that he affected them in a positive way. To be truthful, I don't think he wanted to be known as a nice guy. But he'll always be remembered as a good guy, a great guy, someone who would be there for you, someone that you could talk to, and someone that could brighten your day. Every time I visited him in the hospital, I told him that I loved him, and I know I'm not the only one. Matt, I'm glad you finally got to get some sleep. I know whatever it was you were carrying around couldn't have been easy, and I'm glad you don't have to do it anymore. Just know that I think about you every day and I miss you more than you'll ever know. We all do. This world isn't quite as happy without you. And I look forward to you making me laugh once again when I see you on the other side. Happy birthday.